You walk into a crowded room and something in your body starts counting down. Not anxiety, not fear, just a quiet biological message. This frequency is not yours. The noise hits before the people do. Voices layered on music, layered on chairs, scraping and glasses clinking, and laughter that somehow always seems too loud. Your brain starts cataloging all of it before you've said hello to anyone. And somewhere in the first 20 minutes, you're already thinking about the exit. Most people call you antisocial, a buzzkill, the one who never wants to go out. And they're not entirely wrong about the effect you do leave early. You don't match the room. You find the one real conversation instead of 12 shallow ones, and somehow that makes you the difficult one. But here's what nobody has told you about that. It's not that you hate people. It's that your brain runs a different program, and crowds are the most expensive environment it knows. Before we get to you, it's worth understanding why most people love them. When humans gather in large groups, the brain releases dopamine, the reward chemical tied to novelty, social bonding, and stimulation. A crowded room delivers all three at once. The movement, the noise, the constant small exchanges they register as a continuous stream of social reward. For roughly 80% of the population, walking into a packed bar or a loud party is essentially a neurological upgrade. The room energizes them because their brains are built to extract pleasure from that kind of signal. The other 20% walk in already processing the whole room at once. Doctor. Elaine Aron, who spent decades studying what she called the highly sensitive person, found that approximately 1 in 5 individuals is born with a nervous system that processes sensory input more deeply than average. Not more weakly, more deeply. Every sound, every movement, every social cue is filtered at a higher resolution. The crowd doesn't deliver more information to these people. Their brains extract more meaning from the same data. That's not fragility. That's a neural architecture running a more demanding program. And in a room where the inputs never stop, it burns through resources fast. People have been telling you your whole life that you're too serious, too rigid, that you need to loosen up, lighten up, just enjoy yourself for once. And they mean it because from where they're standing, you genuinely look uncomfortable in spaces where everyone else is having a good time. They're not wrong about what they see. What they miss is the mechanism. Research by Harvard developmental psychologist Jerome Kagan, who followed high-reactive individuals across several decades, found that people with deeper sensory processing show measurably different physiological responses to environmental stimulation, not because something is malfunctioning, but because their baseline sensitivity is set at a higher register. Most people need the volume turned up to feel alive. Your system is already running at full signal. The crowd isn't failing to energize you. It's overloading a channel that was already full. You leave before it ends, sometimes mid-conversation. And when someone asks why, you give them the only answer that fits. Just tired. They accept it. But both of you know it's not quite right. Here's what's actually happening. There's a moment in every loud environment where something shifts. You stop following the conversation in front of you and start hearing everything equally. The music. The voices 3 tables over. The chair scraping. Someone's laughter from across the room. For most people, the brain filters that into background within minutes. For yours, it doesn't fully filter, it stays on. Research published in PLOS One found that introverts and high sensory processors show greater baseline activity in the regions of the brain responsible for incoming stimulation, meaning the same crowded room generates significantly more neural signal for them than for others. Same room, different cost. There's a specific version of this. A guy at a company event, loud bar, mandatory fun, everyone performing enthusiasm. He does everything right for 2 hours, nods, rotates, smiles on cue. At 9:30, he leaves. In the parking lot, his wife texts, "How was it?" He writes back, "Fine." Tired. He sits there for 20 minutes before he can drive home. He wasn't tired. His nervous system had been running full signal for 3 hours straight. He just didn't have the word for it yet. You don't hate noise. You hear it at a resolution. Other people don't. They've read it as coldness, as arrogance, the one who doesn't care about the room. And you can't entirely argue with it. The room does feel something when you disengage. Here's what they're missing. Most people run a background process in group settings almost automatically, calibrating their expression, matching the energy in the room, projecting enthusiasm they may or may not actually feel. Psychologists call this social performance monitoring. For most people, it runs effortlessly. The brain rewards every small social exchange as a micro hit of dopamine. Research on neural pathways in extroverted versus introverted neurotypes shows that extroverts are essentially rewarded at a biological level for performing social energy. The crowd is their medium. Your brain doesn't run that reward loop in the same way. You feel every bit of the effort because there's no automatic payoff hiding the cost. So after a while, you stop pretending it's worth it. What people read as coldness is something simpler. You never develop the habit of faking it. And over time, that becomes its own kind of gravity. But here's the question I need you to sit with. Is your avoidance of crowds protecting your energy or protecting you from connection you've been afraid to want? Both look the same from the outside. Both look like a man who disappears early and doesn't explain why. One is self-knowledge. One is armor. Only you know which one it is. And if it's the second one, that's not a wiring problem. That's worth sitting with longer than this video. You've been accused of it. Standing off to the side at a party, not saying much, taking it all in, and someone catches your expression and asks, "What do you think of everyone?" The answer you keep to yourself is usually accurate. Dr. Ted Zeff, who researched sensory processing traits specifically in men, found that high sensory processors develop strong social pattern recognition over time, not from deliberate analysis, but from years of reading rooms, because the rooms were always louder than they needed to be. You learn to track who's performing, who's uncomfortable, who's having a worse night than they're pretending to have. You learned it because you were paying attention when others weren't. That's not antisocial. That's the most observant thing in the room done quietly, for your own reasons. If you're a man, you know how this has been labeled your whole life. Buzzkill, antisocial, the one who ruins the energy just by not matching it. Men are expected to perform group enthusiasm, to be loud in the right moments, to generate heat, to show up for the room. You've never been able to fake that convincingly. Not because you don't care about people, because you can't pretend the noise isn't there. And that quiet refusal to perform over decades becomes something people can't quite explain, but definitely feel when you walk in. Follow for more on the psychology of quiet intensity. Some equipment is built to receive everything. Yours was calibrated to receive the right things. Which environment drains you fastest? A loud party, a crowded office, or somewhere else entirely? Drop it in the comments. And if you know a man who's spent his whole life being called antisocial and never had the words for why send this to him, sometimes just having the name for something changes the whole thing.